There's a breath yogis from the Himalaya have practiced for centuries, one so potent, so reality-shifting, that many refuse to teach it publicly. Not because it was fake, but because it works. And when you're not ready, that kind of power can dismantle you. This isn't just a breathing trick to calm down. This is a technique that alters your nervous system, ignites dormant energy centers, and can even trigger the Kundalini force lying coiled at the base of your spine. It's been called dangerous, divine, and forbidden, depending on who you ask. Some say it unlocks hidden perception. Others say it opens gateways you can't close. So what is this breath? Why was it hidden? And why are more people being drawn to it now? In this video, we'll uncover the exact breath yogis warned us not to misuse. You'll learn what it does, why it transforms you on a quantum level, and what must be in place before you even attempt it. This isn't hype. It's esoteric science, long buried, now reawakening. But be warned, once you understand what this breath can do, you'll never see your own body or your reality the same again. For thousands of years, certain breath techniques were passed only from teacher to student in whispered tones, in candlelit caves and mountain ashrams. These weren't your everyday pranayama exercises. They were keys. Keys that, if misused, could fracture the psyche or explode dormant energy centers prematurely. Yogic masters knew this, and so they chose silence over spectacle, guarding these teachings like a sacred fire, lest they fall into unprepared hands. The danger wasn't in the breath itself, but in the consciousness of the breather. These techniques altered more than oxygen levels. They opened perception, stirred dormant memories, collapsed ego boundaries. In the wrong vessel, that could cause disorientation, even madness. The ancients weren't gatekeeping out of pride. They were protecting both the technique and the initiate. Throughout the Vedic and Tantric lineages, certain kriyas were only revealed after years of inner purification. Not as punishment, but as protection. Much like you wouldn't hand a child a lightning bolt, masters wouldn't hand a beginner the breath that awakens the Kundalini. Because this breath doesn't just energize, it electrifies. Yet something changed in the modern age. Secrets began surfacing, books were written, workshops sold, and the sacred breath, once shielded by centuries of oral lineage, became clickable content. This democratization has its gifts, but also its shadows, because without context, reverence, and readiness, even a sacred technique can become spiritual TNT. So when a yogi says, don't teach them this breath, it's not a decree of superiority. It's a whisper of compassion, a reminder that power without preparation can burn, and that silence in the right hands is not withholding, it's wisdom. To the untrained eye, breath is just air, inhaled, exhaled, forgotten. But to the adept, breath is the chariot of consciousness. It's the bridge between the seen and the unseen. Every inhale a calling, every exhale a release. The ancient yogis weren't just breathing for survival, they were breathing to sculpt reality, to move energy beyond the physical shell. In the advanced sciences of pranayama, breath becomes a code. Each rhythm, ratio, and retention serves as a command to the energy body. One pattern activates the solar plexus, another ignites the crown. The body, when properly attuned, responds like a temple awakening from slumber. These techniques don't just oxygenate, they vibrate, purify, and rewire. Through these breaths, energy begins to circulate along the nadis, the subtle channels that govern emotional memory, psychic ability, and even karmic residue. This isn't metaphor, it's experience. Adepts report visions, shifts in time perception, heart awakenings. What's happening isn't fantasy, it's frequency. Breath becomes the conductor of inner electricity. But here's the nuance. Without mental stillness, the breath's power scatters. It's like trying to aim a laser through a storm. The yogis taught that the breath and mind are like twins, where one goes, the other follows. So to move energy beyond the physical, one must master not just technique, but presence. Stillness becomes the amplifier, and that's the mark of the adept, not one who breathes harder or longer, but one who breathes with intention and coherence. The breath moves through them like a silent symphony, opening gateways not visible to the eye, but felt deeply in the soul. That is why it was protected. Not because it is complex, but because it is sacred. In the esoteric systems of yogic science, the breath is more than a biological function. It is a key that unlocks gateways hidden within the body's energetic architecture. These are the pranic gateways, thresholds where subtle energy enters, exits, and transforms. And once accessed, they allow the breather to step outside the confines of ordinary perception. Most people breathe unconsciously, only scratching the surface of what's possible. But conscious breath, when combined with visualization and awareness, acts like a spiritual password. With each inhale, the practitioner draws in prana, the life force. With each exhale, they direct it. Where attention goes, energy flows. This is not poetic, it's vibrational mechanics. Certain breath practices awaken dormant centers, like the Ajna chakra, the portal of inner vision, or the Anahata, the gateway to cosmic empathy. As breath is guided into these centers, something miraculous occurs. The body stops being just a body. It becomes a temple, a transmitter, a vessel for otherworldly downloads and multidimensional contact. But unlocking these pranic gateways also means encountering what's been hidden behind them: old traumas, ancestral imprints, karmic echoes. That's why the breath is both healing and revealing. It stirs the soul's archives, inviting light into long-forgotten rooms. And that's not always comfortable, but it is liberating. When a breath unlocks a gateway, reality can shift, subtly at first, then suddenly. Synchronicities arise, dreams intensify, emotions surface. This is not the breath as fitness, it is the breath as metaphysical transport, a sacred act of inner navigation, and once opened, these portals rarely close. They stay with you, waiting to be honored again and again. There's a powerful truth buried beneath the rhythm of your breath. Every inhale is an instruction to your nervous system. Every exhale is an energetic release. The yogis knew this long before brain scans confirmed it. They saw the breath not just as air, but as a tool to sculpt perception. When used with intention, breath transforms into neural alchemy, the reprogramming of the mind-body interface through vibration, rhythm, and stillness. What we think of as breathing becomes a master key to the operating system of consciousness itself. Breath controls brainwave states with astonishing precision. A fast, shallow breath keeps you locked in beta, the brain's alert, often anxious mode. But slow, rhythmic breathing draws you into alpha and theta, where imagination opens and the subconscious becomes accessible. Yogic breath holds, known as kumbhaka, induce a sacred pause between thoughts, a silence that invites the divine. In these gaps, new neural patterns can be encoded. Old stories begin to dissolve. The breath becomes both eraser and author, dissolving trauma and scripting liberation. The nervous system, once hijacked by stress, begins to recalibrate. Conscious breath activates the vagus nerve, shifting the body from fight or flight into rest and repair. This isn't relaxation, it's reconfiguration. Neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine begin to flow. Cortisol drops. The body starts to feel safe again. And in safety, miracles happen. Breath creates the conditions where the mind can rewire its deepest fears and the body can release stored pain. Healing at its core begins with exhalation. Even more mysterious is the role of the pineal gland, nestled deep in the brain. Ancient yogis described it as the crystal antenna of higher consciousness. When activated through breath retention and focused awareness, it secretes compounds linked to mystical vision and inner awakening. Modern science hints that these molecules resemble DMT, the spirit molecule. What yogis have always known is now catching up in laboratories. The right breath can unlock doors to other realms. The veil grows thin when the breath becomes sacred. This is the alchemy of awakening, not through chemicals, not through gurus, but through breath, the most intimate, primal tool we have. Neural alchemy isn't fiction, it's your birthright. You can breathe your way into higher coherence, into a brain that no longer loops in fear, but flows in creative genius. And once that pattern is established, you don't just think differently, you become someone new, someone ancient, someone free. Breath isn't just air, it's a tuning fork. Each inhale, a subtle signal sent through the fabric of space-time. The ancient mystics understood what modern physics now flirts with. Reality is frequency, and consciousness is the dial. By controlling breath, one can tune the inner receiver to stations far beyond the five senses. These aren't metaphorical dimensions. They are vibrational layers of existence, waiting to be perceived through the right internal frequency. Every breath pattern has a signature vibration. Some energize the body, others calm the mind, and a rare few open gateways into altered perception. Breath modulates your electromagnetic field, also known as your auric signature. As you slow the breath and enter coherence, you begin syncing with subtler frequencies. This is when intuition sharpens, synchronicities spike. Time becomes fluid. You're no longer stuck in 3D, you're streaming from the quantum bandwidth. Many traditions speak of the veil, the subtle barrier between the material and the mystical. That veil is vibrational, and breath is the bridge. When breath and awareness harmonize, the pineal gland lights up like an antenna, translating cosmic frequencies into images, insights, and knowing. In this state, you might see colors with no name, feel time unravel, or receive guidance that transcends logic. This is what happens when the breath becomes your frequency tuner. But this power requires purity. Not moral purity, but vibrational clarity. If your field is cluttered with emotional debris or mental noise, the tuning will distort. That's why yogis emphasize inner silence, intention and heart coherence before engaging in high-level breathwork. Without these, one risks misinterpretation or energetically short-circuiting. Because tuning to higher dimensions isn't about escape. It's about responsibility. You're not just seeing more, you're being more. So when the breath becomes conscious, it becomes cosmic. It's no longer just sustaining life, it's expanding it. Every cycle of inhale and exhale becomes a prayer, a code, a conversation with the universe. And once you realize this, your entire life becomes a form of listening, a quiet attunement to the unseen rhythms that shape what we call reality. There's a reason ancient yogic masters were cautious, fearful even, of sharing powerful breath techniques with those not fully prepared. This wasn't arrogance, it was energetic discernment. Because when you awaken dormant energy without the stabilizing force of wisdom, the results can be chaotic. The body shakes, the mind fractures, the ego panics. What was meant to liberate can instead overwhelm. And so, the masters kept these teachings in the shadows until the student's light was strong enough. The breath these yogis protected wasn't ordinary. It could activate Kundalini, the raw serpent energy coiled at the base of the spine. When awakened too soon, without the foundation of humility and emotional integration, this energy can erupt in disturbing ways: sleeplessness, paranoia, psychosis. What modern science calls nervous breakdown, the mystics recognized as spiritual overload. This wasn't punishment, it was a misalignment of voltage and vessel. Breath is power, and power must be earned. Some seekers, driven by curiosity or ego, bypassed the path. They found techniques in old manuscripts or online, practiced without guidance and suffered, not because the breath was flawed, but because their system wasn't yet ready. Energy work is like tuning an instrument. You don't blast a violin with electricity and expect music. You build resonance gradually, respectfully, with awareness. The breath teaches this, but only to those who listen. The masters weren't gatekeepers in the modern sense. They weren't hoarding secrets to feel superior. They were guardians. They knew that once the breath opens certain channels, the psyche becomes porous. Old traumas rise. Hidden fears scream. Archetypal energies emerge. Without the grounding of presence and the support of a guide, many crumble. Not because they were weak, but because they were rushed. The breath requires patience. The soul deserves it. This is why they warned, don't teach them this breath. Not out of elitism, but compassion. Because awakening is sacred, not sensational. It's not a viral hack. It's a rite of passage. And when the student is ready, not perfect but sincere, the breath will reveal itself, like a sacred whisper, waiting behind the veil, saying, now, begin. There is a breath so profound, so vibrationally precise, that it can pierce the illusion of separation. This is not poetry, it's quantum mechanics. The yogis called it the breath of awakening, for it doesn't just calm the body, it dissolves the boundaries of identity. Through it, the breather merges into the unified field, the place where all potentials exist and all realities emerge. This is the same quantum field spoken of by physicists and mystics alike, a living ocean of vibration shaped by consciousness. When breath enters deep coherence, rhythmic, intentional, heart-aligned, it forms a harmonic bridge into this field. In that moment, the line between thinker and thought dissolves. You're no longer observing the breath. You are the breath. Awareness expands. You feel connected to everything, the stars, the soil, the silence between sounds. This isn't imagination, it's entrainment. Your frequency has synced with the deeper structure of the cosmos. Neville Goddard once said, imagination is the only reality. The breath of awakening is how you enter that reality consciously. It trains the subconscious to accept new possibilities as fact. With each breath, you are choosing a timeline, collapsing a wave function. This is the quantum observer effect, not in theory but in practice. You breathe not just to survive, but to select your experience, to shift from limitation into liberation. But awakening isn't always bliss, it's clarity. And clarity shows you everything, your light and your shadow, your power and your procrastination. The breath reveals the unconscious scripts you've been running. It lifts them to the surface for healing. That's why many cry, shake, or feel waves of memory during deep breath work. They're not breaking down, they're breaking open. And what emerges is truth, raw, unfiltered, and liberating. So when we speak of the forbidden breath, this is it. The breath that awakens the divine observer within, the one that steps outside the simulation and remembers, I am not the program, I am the coder, I am the consciousness breathing this moment into being. And once you touch that state, even for a second, you are never the same again. With great power comes great responsibility, and nowhere is this truer than in the realm of breathwork. Once the forbidden breath is unlocked, it cannot be unseen. The energy it awakens demands reverence. This isn't just a technique, it's a lifestyle, a vibrational commitment. Integration means learning to walk with awakened energy without burning out or losing your center. It means grounding spiritual fire into human form, gracefully, intentionally. The first key to integration is consistency over intensity. Many seekers crave peak states, visions, surges, downloads. But the real work happens in the mundane. The quiet morning sit, the conscious meal, the heartfelt conversation. Breathwork teaches that enlightenment isn't an escape, it's embodiment. It's bringing the divine into every breath, every step, every word. Not by force, but by frequency. The breath doesn't demand, it invites. Second, we must create containers of support, community, mentorship, ritual. The energy awakened through breath will test relationships, challenge identities, and stir emotional residue. Having spaces where these shifts can be witnessed and held is vital. The yogic path was never meant to be walked alone. In Sangha, or sacred community, we remember that integration is not isolation, it is resonance with others on the path. Third, emotional fluency becomes essential. The breath will unearth grief, rage, ecstasy, often within minutes. Integration means allowing those energies to move without judgment or repression. Cry, dance, journal, breathe again. Energy must flow to evolve, and when we allow our emotions to be messengers, not enemies, we begin to live from truth. The forbidden breath doesn't just awaken, it purifies. And purification is a process, not an event. Ultimately, integration is devotion. It's the choice to honor the gift of awakened breath, not just in ceremony, but in life. To let your words match your vibration, to walk with integrity, to use this sacred power not to impress, but to illuminate. Because when you carry this breath with care, you become a lighthouse, reminding others silently and powerfully that they too are divine. If you've made it this far, something in you already knows. This breath isn't just a technique, it's a remembering, a key buried deep in your being, waiting for the right moment to turn. And maybe, just maybe, that moment is now. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live shallow, physically, mentally, or spiritually. You were designed to breathe in galaxies, to exhale limitations, to become a conduit of energy so powerful it bends the very fabric of your timeline. This breath is not for everyone, but it is for the one who's ready. The one who chooses inner power over passive comfort. The one who remembers who they really are. Use it not to escape, but to awaken, not to dominate, but to harmonize. With each conscious breath, you become the bridge between worlds, the mystic with modern feet, grounded in purpose, vibrating in truth. This is what the ancient masters saw in you. This is what they protected. If this transmission stirred something inside you, like this video, if it helped you remember, subscribe. Because here on the Cosmic Awakening channel, we don't just speak truth, we embody it. Together, breathe, rise, awaken.